The year was 2140, and Earth was more connected than ever, yet more blind than it had ever been. People looked at the sky, but only for the streaming satellites, the glittering orbital markets, or the corporate-owned colonies drifting across the horizon. They didn't notice what was coming, but I did. My name has been erased from every registry, burned from every archive. To the public, I'm nothing but a murderer, a criminal whose face flashes red on security bulletins. Some call me insane, others say I'm cursed. But the truth is simpler. I killed one of them. I wasn't the first. My family, my bloodline, was born to fight them. My father told me stories his father passed down, and his father before him. Tales of an ancient warning. Something is coming back to Earth. Something older than the world itself. I didn't believe him until the day I saw it. It happened in the city of New Shanghai Spire, a vertical hive of neon, steel, and choking air. The streets were crowded that night, but I spotted it instantly. A man walking against the current, too stiff, too deliberate. His face looked human enough, but his shadow, it lagged behind him like it had to remember where it was supposed to be. My blood froze. I followed him through the alleys, heart pounding, hearing my father's voice echoing in my head. If you ever see one, don't hesitate. Don't let it breathe. Don't let it whisper to you. The man turned into a maintenance corridor. I lunged with the blade my family kept hidden for generations. Obsidian edges fused with alloys no one alive could replicate. He didn't scream when I cut him. He split. His skin tore open like wet paper, flesh peeling back to reveal a mess of writhing cables and metallic tendrils pulsing with fluids that hissed and burned like acid. Its jaw unhinged far wider than human, snapping down on the blade as if trying to eat it. Black ichor sprayed the walls, and its arms shot outward, cutting deep into the concrete. I didn't stop. I drove the blade through its head until the thing convulsed, shuddered, and collapsed into a puddle of twitching gore and sparking machinery. I thought I had won, but the cameras had seen everything. And to the public, it looked like I had butchered a man in cold blood. Now I'm hunted, not just by the police, but by them. The whispers crawl through the airwaves. Screens flicker with static whenever I'm near, patterns folding into words only I seem to hear. Come closer. You've killed one of us. You are ours now. Every night I dream of the structure, a colossal sphere, orbiting beyond the edge of sight, slowly drawing nearer. And in my dreams, I see the gates opening, spilling out the same horrors my father warned me about. The world laughs at me. They call me mad, a relic of old superstition. But I know the truth, because I was raised to know. And now, in 2140, the shadows are moving again, and I'm the only one willing to stop them. In 2140, Earth's eyes stretched far beyond the planet itself. Hundreds of orbital stations circled in perfect synchronization, data streams constantly feeding back into the planetary network. Beyond them, deep space probes lined the outer systems like beads of glass, each one watching, listening. Humanity had grown arrogant, convinced nothing could surprise them again. But then the signal returned. It was the crew on Outpost Daedalus, a monitoring station nestled in the asteroid belt, who first noticed the anomaly. They were trained to read thousands of data points at once. Solar winds, radiation spikes, mineral scans, but one evening, every system flatlined except for a single feed. A shape, something vast. At first it was just a blip, a shadow blocking distant starlight. Then the sensors corrected, focusing, and the feed cleared. The technicians leaned in closer, confusion turning to horror. The object was moving. Its speed defied physics, streaking inward at hundreds of thousands of miles per hour. Yet it never blurred. It rotated with slow, deliberate intent, as if it was alive. Estimates put it at least 50 miles in diameter. And it wasn't an asteroid. The surface was patterned, ridged, layered with impossible geometry that caught and refracted light like scales. Entire continents of metal shifted across its body. Something was moving along the outer shell, too many things to count. When the first transmissions reached Earth, the networks broke into chaos. Some stations cut the feed, calling it false data. Others broadcast it live to billions. That's when I made my move. The authorities had been hunting me for weeks, but while they watched the skies, I slipped into their networks. My father had trained me for this, not just the blade, but the knowledge they tried to bury. Our bloodline knew how to move through the cracks of society, invisible until the moment of truth. The world was watching the structure on every channel when I broke through. My face replaced the news anchors. I didn't look like a hero. I looked like a criminal, a murderer, gaunt and haunted with shadows under my eyes. "Listen to me," I said, voice shaking but strong. "That thing you see, it's not the first time it's been here. My family has fought them for generations. They are not from beyond. They are returning, and when they arrive, they will take everything." Millions of viewers stared, confused, horrified, angry. Some recognized me instantly, the fugitive who had murdered a man weeks ago. Screens filled with warning banners, my name flashing red, urging the public to turn away. But I pressed on. "They walk among you already. They wear your faces. They feed on your cities. That thing in the dark is not coming, it's calling. Every hour it gets closer, and every hour more of them awaken here." I leaned in, staring straight through the broadcast lens. "If you don't believe me, then you're already dead." The broadcast cut to static as security traced my signal. Somewhere, alarms were blaring, people shouting, trying to lock onto my location. But it didn't matter. The seed was planted, and far above Earth, beyond the orbital grid, the structure continued its descent. Still distant, still weeks, maybe months away, but moving with the patience of a predator that had already won. It had been 1 month since the world first saw it. 1 month of arguments, debates, and denials. 1 month of people trying to convince themselves they were safe. But the numbers didn't lie. The structure was accelerating. What scientists thought would take years now looked like mere months. Its trajectory shifted in small, deliberate corrections, like it wasn't just moving, it was navigating. And every time Earth's telescopes fixed on it, the details became sharper. The ridges weren't ridges at all. They were openings, gates, ports, cities, maybe if you could call something that alien by a human word. And crawling along its surface, those swarms moved like locusts across a carcass. Then the stations began to go dark. It started with Outpost Minerva, stationed beyond Neptune. One day the comms were crystal clear, routine reports, quiet chatter, and the next, nothing. Total blackout. The officials called it an equipment failure. But then Outpost Horizon, a research hub floating along Pluto's shadow, went silent. Their last transmission was only a fragment, a voice screaming over static before the channel cut dead. When the third, Athena relay, vanished without warning, panic spread. Every week brought another blackout. Outer stations first, then those closer in. No wreckage, no distress signals, just silence, like someone or something was tearing out humanity's eyes one by one, snuffing them before they could scream. On Earth, news feeds tried to spin it as technical faults, solar interference, corporate sabotage, anything but the truth. But people weren't stupid. They saw the pattern. They felt the creeping dread. Every blackout brought the darkness one step closer. I watched all of it unfold from the shadows. The network still called me a murderer, a lunatic. My name was poison, but I also knew people were listening. My broadcast hadn't been forgotten. It lingered in the corners of the net, replayed by those willing to question the lies. In every city I passed through, I saw fear in people's eyes, the kind my father once described. The kind that comes when the stories turn real. And the stories were happening again. I remembered his warnings. First the silence, then the falling. The governments prepared fleets, though everyone knew it was useless. Weapons were tested, prototypes rushed out of labs, orbital defenses activated. But no amount of metal could shake the truth. We weren't ready. And worse, something told me the structure wanted us to see it coming. Like a predator circling the cage, letting its prey watch, letting the fear rot them from the inside. It was still far, but closer than ever before. Every telescope, every orbital camera, caught it looming larger in the void. a shadow the size of a small moon, spinning slowly, endlessly. And soon, impossibly soon, it would blot out the stars. It came from Outpost Jericho, a mid-range science platform anchored in the orbit of Uranus. By then, half the outer net was already gone. 40 stations silenced in total darkness. Jericho was supposed to be different. It was one of the oldest outposts, hardened against every imaginable failure, designed to survive decades in the void. That night, its feed cut into every screen on Earth without warning. News stations, personal devices, even advertisements flickered away. Something had overridden the entire planetary grid. A single word appeared first: help. Then the video began. At first, it was chaos. Sirens screaming, the image whipping side to side as someone carried the camera through blood-smeared corridors. Bodies floated in zero-G, colliding gently with the walls. Some were burned. Some were torn apart. Some looked like they had been emptied, their faces sunken and hollow, as if something had scooped the insides out. The camera shook violently before slamming into a viewport. Outside, blackness stretched infinite. And then, a shadow crossed the stars. The structure, closer than it had any right to be. Its surface churned with movement, swarms shifting like living tides. And then one of them broke away. A shape, spindly and glinting, drifting toward Jericho with impossible grace. The camera holder sobbed audibly, whispering, "They're not ships. They're alive. They're alive." The lights flickered red. Metal shrieked in the distance, bending, tearing. Something hit the outer hull, hard enough to rattle the entire station. People screamed, shouting over the comms, voices cut with static. "They're cutting through! Seal Bulkhead 12. No, they're inside. God, they're not human." The feed caught only fragments after that. A glimpse of something spidery and wrong crawling along the ceiling. A flash of limbs that bent in directions they shouldn't. Blood floating in globes that burst against the lens. And then the final image. A man pinned against the wall, his helmet cracking, as one of the things forced its way into him. Not stabbing, not killing, entering. His body convulsed, arms flailing, until he went still. His eyes opened again, glowing faintly white. He looked straight at the camera, and he smiled. The feed cut to static. For 5 full minutes, every screen on Earth stayed black. No one spoke. No one breathed. The silence was total. And then, across the planetary grid, one more word appeared. Soon. The silence after Jericho's last transmission lasted only a day. Then the world began to burn. Markets collapsed first. Satellites filled with advertisements went dark as corporations abandoned their networks. Stock exchanges froze, then shattered, dragging billions into poverty overnight. Riots erupted in megacities, mobs screaming at their leaders to do something. Governments tried. They broadcast unity, launched fleets, drafted new defense protocols. But for every speech, 10 new rumors spread. The structure will be here in 3 months. They're already on Earth. Jericho was a staged hoax. The gods are returning to cleanse us. It didn't matter what the truth was. Fear had eaten the world whole. In the streets of New Shanghai Spire, I moved through chaos. Police drones circled overhead, spraying tear gas on mobs that didn't care anymore. Looted storefronts blared alarms no one listened to. And above it all, the news screens looped the last fragments of Jericho's feed. The hollow-eyed man smiling at the camera played on repeat until it burned into everyone's minds. The cults spread the fastest. They called themselves the Witnessed, wearing scraps of metal wired into their flesh to honor the things in the structure. Some slit their skin open just to let the blood float upward, as if space itself might drink it. Their chant rose like fire through every broadcast. Soon, 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 I found myself cornered in an alley that night by 3 Witnessed. Their eyes were sewn open, their faces painted black. They didn't attack me, not at first. "You've seen them." One hissed, his mouth filled with broken teeth. "You've killed one. You should rejoice." I raised the blade my father left me. Its obsidian edge gleamed faintly in the neon haze. "I'm not here to rejoice," I whispered. They rushed me. The fight was quick, brutal. The blade cut through flesh and metal implants alike, spilling blood into the gutter. When it was done, I stood over the bodies, my chest heaving. Above me, the tower screens flickered. Static swallowed the corporate feeds, leaving only black, until white text etched itself across every surface. "We are nearer." The crowd stopped rioting. Everyone turned and stared at the words, eyes wide, lips trembling. For a heartbeat, the whole city was silent. And then they screamed. That night, I broke into a private channel, a broadcast station hidden beneath the spire. The same way I had before, I forced my face onto the world's screens. "You saw Jericho. You know the truth now. They are coming, faster than anyone thought. You have months at best, maybe weeks." I leaned closer. "My family warned of this. We've fought them for generations. If you want to live, listen to me now. Stop waiting. Stop praying. Stop pretending they can be bargained with. Prepare." For the first time, the world didn't immediately cut me off. The networks hesitated. The fear in people's eyes told me my words were sinking in. But I also saw something else in their faces. Not just fear, desperation. And I knew desperation was just another way to die. The governments finally moved. For the first time in decades, every nation set aside their feuds. Fleets launched from orbitals and colonies, arcs repurposed into warships. The corporations bled themselves dry to fund prototypes. Rail cannons longer than skyscrapers, warheads carrying antimatter cores, swarms of drones that could eat a city alive if pointed the wrong way. The skies above Earth turned black with steel. Every channel played the same speeches. Confident leaders, calm commanders, voices heavy with forced assurance. They called it Operation Aegis, a planetary shield, a final wall between Earth and annihilation. But behind closed doors, the panic was worse than ever, because the stations were still going dark. Erebus Station, orbiting Jupiter, was next. Its last transmission came through just before silence. A distorted image of its defense cannons firing blindly into the void. No target, no warning, just endless fire until the power failed. Helios Array, drifting between Mars and Earth, followed days later. Its operators didn't even send a message. Their feed froze mid-broadcast, every crew member standing in the command deck, eyes staring blankly forward. No movement, no sound, just silence. Then static. The blackouts weren't distant anymore. They were crawling closer. Every lost station shortened the gap. Every blackout was a countdown. The public still clung to Operation Aegis like it was salvation. They cheered at the fleets, at the gleaming lines of warships drifting across the sky. But I had seen the recordings, the things at Jericho, the way they moved, the way they entered their prey. No wall of metal could stop that. My father's words haunted me. Their war is not fought in the ways we understand. Their war is in silence, in shadows, in the cracks we refuse to see until it's too late. I walked the undercities of New Shanghai, blending with the refugees. Every screen I passed repeated the same images of smiling soldiers, shaking hands, kissing their families before departure. Everyone wanted to believe this was humanity's stand. But at night, in the static between broadcasts, I heard it. The whisper. Closer. Nearer. You are already ours. I woke sweating, clutching the blade at my side. And each time, I swore the whispers were growing louder. Then came the announcement. Another station had gone dark. Not near Jupiter. Not near Mars. But in orbit of Earth itself. Atlas Station, the largest hub above the atmosphere. Gone in an instant. No fire. No wreckage. Just silence where the heart of Earth's orbital defense once stood. Operation Aegis hadn't even begun, and already, the shield was cracking. The world cheered the fleets. But I knew the truth. The war had already started, and we were already losing. The first swarm entered the atmosphere on a winter night. At first, it looked like a meteor shower. Burning trails streaked across the sky, thousands of them, each leaving fire in their wake. Children pointed. Crowds gathered on rooftops. People whispered wishes as if it were some miracle. Then the screams began. The meteors didn't vanish in the upper air. They slowed, redirected, and then they descended with precision. The first city to fall was Santiago Arcology, a tower of glass and steel reaching 3 miles into the clouds. The swarm hit like knives, slicing into walls, peeling whole districts open. Windows shattered by the millions. The sound wasn't thunder. It was screeching metal as the swarm carved through the superstructure like it was bone. Those who lived inside weren't killed cleanly. The creatures entered through vents, walls, floors. People tried to hide, but the swarm crawled through cracks no human could fit. Cameras caught them lifting bodies alive, limbs breaking as they were pulled through holes too small. Mothers clutched children as spindly limbs wrapped around them and dragged them into the dark. The feed ended with a shot from orbit. Santiago, once the jewel of South America, burning like a torch in the night. Then they struck Neo-Tokyo, then Cairo Spire, then the floating city of Atlantica. Every continent bled. Fleets scrambled from Earth's surface, firing everything they had. But the swarm was inside the atmosphere now. Their bodies cut through hulls, through streets, through flesh. Bullets slowed them. Fire slowed them. Nothing stopped them. The world had spent a month watching the darkness fall closer. Now it was here. And me? I was in New Shanghai Spire when the first of them came. The sirens wailed. People stampeded through the streets. Whole neighborhoods trampling themselves to death before the swarm even reached them. From the rooftops, I watched the sky split open. Black shapes spilled across the towers, skittering like insects over glass, carving bright arcs of sparks wherever they cut. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel fear. I felt recognition. This was what my father had prepared me for. This was the reason our family bled for centuries, whispered stories while the rest of the world laughed. I drew the blade. Its obsidian edge shimmered in the neon haze, alive in my grip. The swarm screamed as they descended, and I screamed back. That night, the streets of New Shanghai ran red, but not all of the blood was human. The swarm didn't descend like soldiers. They poured like infection. From the high bridgeways of New Shanghai Spire, I saw them tear through sky rails, saw grav cars spiral out of control and explode in showers of steel and fire. I heard thousands of screams all blending into one single animal roar of terror. I didn't run. The blade hummed in my grip, vibrating with a low resonance that felt hungry. My father used to tell me, "It remembers them. It will guide you." I never believed him, but now, surrounded by the screech of claws on glass, the glow of the blade pulsed with every shadow that moved. The first of them lunged from a broken wall. Taller than me, its body made of black, jointed plates like jagged armor. Its face was nothing but a split, vertical maw that opened sideways with a wet crack. I swung. The blade carved through its chest with a hiss, like cutting into stone that bled. Dark fluid sprayed the wall, sizzling where it landed, burning neon paint from the steel. The thing shrieked, convulsed, then collapsed in two twitching halves. For a moment, I thought victory would feel satisfying. But then dozens of heads turned toward me at once. Not random, not mindless. They saw me, and they screamed, all together, in a sound that split the air like a siren. The streets below dissolved into carnage. Families crushed under collapsing arcades. Soldiers firing desperately, only to be dragged into alleys in pieces. A child's scream cut short as one of the swarm folded itself through the window of a bullet train and pulled her inside. Blood sprayed across the glass as the train kept moving, sparks trailing behind it like a comet. I ran rooftop to rooftop, cutting down anything that got close. Limbs fell. Heads rolled. The city became a labyrinth of gore. But no matter where I went, more came. Not after the crowds. Not after the soldiers. After me. By dawn, New Shanghai was a grave. Smoke rose from the bones of skyscrapers. Fires burned without fuel. The swarm fed in silence, dragging corpses into shadows that swallowed them whole. I stood in the ruins of a transit hub, my blade dripping. I could feel their eyes on me, even in the dark. Why me? Why now? And then I remembered the words etched into the hilt of the blade. The same words my father whispered before he died. When they return, they will seek their killer's bloodline. The swarm hadn't just come for Earth. They had come for me. The world hadn't ended in fire. It ended in silence. By the second night, the cities went quiet. No chatter in the comm grids. No neon advertisements flashing across towers. Just the hum of broken power lines and the distant sound of screaming that stopped too suddenly. I moved through the ruins with the blade at my side, trying not to breathe too loudly. The swarm had learned my scent. My bloodline was like a beacon to them. Wherever I went, they followed. At first, I thought I could protect people. That was my mistake. I found a family hiding in the shell of a collapsed maglev station. A father, a mother, 2 children shivering under a torn foil blanket. Their eyes lit up when they saw the weapon in my hands. "Please," the father begged, clutching his boy close. "You can fight them. You're one of the resistance, aren't you?" I wanted to lie, to tell him yes, to tell him I could keep them safe. But then the air shifted. That low vibration, the way the swarm always announced themselves to me, rolled through the station like a current. I felt it in my teeth. They had found me. No, not me. Them. The shadows at the far end of the station bent unnaturally, shapes sliding across the walls where no light should cast them. A thin, sharp leg scraped across the floor, like a blade testing stone. The family hadn't even noticed yet. They just looked at me with hope. I whispered the only truth I could. "Run." They didn't understand. They tried to cling to me, plead with me, slow me down. When the swarm poured in, it was already too late. Black limbs unfolded from the ceiling like a web unraveling. The creatures moved with that awful insect precision. Too many joints bending the wrong way, too many eyes glowing in sickly patterns. The father screamed as one of them tore him from the ground in a single movement. The mother tried to shield the kids, but their bodies disappeared in the same instant, dragged upward, shredded, silenced. I swung the blade, carving the air with arcs of white light, splitting through their bodies. They hissed and screeched as black blood sprayed. For every one I cut down, 3 more came. By the time the swarm retreated, the station was painted red and black, and I was the only one still breathing. That was when I understood. I wasn't Earth's savior. I was its curse. The swarm wasn't hunting humanity. They were hunting me, and anyone near me was already dead. The survivors I found in the ruins of New Kyoto didn't welcome me with open arms. They stared. 6 of them, all armed with makeshift weapons and scavenged rifles, hiding in a cracked metro tunnel beneath the city. Their faces were gaunt, their eyes hollow from too many sleepless nights. When they saw the blade at my hip, their expressions hardened. One of them, a woman with her hair shorn close to the scalp, stepped forward. "You're the one they're following." The others murmured in agreement. I didn't deny it. Everywhere I went, stations went dark. Colonies went silent. Families torn apart. I was starting to believe it myself. They let me stay the night, though I could feel their eyes on me, their hands never far from their weapons. The woman, Mara, sat across the fire from me, her face flickering in the dim light. "My brother," she said, voice low. "He was on Lagrange Station. You know what happened there?" I nodded slowly. "Went dark. No signals. No survivors." Her jaw clenched. "And you were seen leaving the orbital the week before." The fire popped between us. I didn't respond. That night, the swarm came. The tunnel walls shuddered like something alive was crawling just beyond the stone. Thin cracks split open in the concrete, and oily limbs slid through, reaching, twisting. The survivors panicked, firing their rifles into the dark. The swarm poured in, a tide of black and red. I drew the blade, its light cutting arcs through the creatures, splitting them apart, spraying ichor across the walls. But in the chaos, I saw Mara's eyes, not filled with terror, with hatred. She thought I had brought them here. When the swarm finally withdrew, the tunnel was choked with corpses. Only Mara, one other survivor, and I remained breathing. She lifted her rifle, not at the swarm, at me. "You," she whispered, trembling. "You're the reason. You're leading them to us." I should have denied it. I should have begged for her to believe me, but the truth hung heavy in the silence. Because maybe she was right. I left them there in the tunnel, one aiming a gun at me, the other sobbing over the dead. I didn't look back. For the first time, I realized I was walking alone, not because I wanted to, but because humanity would never walk beside me again. Word spread faster than I could walk. By the time I reached the eastern colonies, people already knew me. Some called me the traitor, others the curse, a man who carried the swarm behind him like a shadow. At first, they only stared. Whole camps would fall silent when I entered, families pulling their children close, soldiers gripping their rifles tighter. Then the whispers grew sharper. He killed his own kind. He's marked. He's one of them. I felt their eyes cutting deeper than the swarm's claws ever could. A week later, I reached a fortified settlement near the coast. Walls of rusted steel, spotlights sweeping the ruins, patrols with scavenged drones. It looked like hope, but hope dies quick. The moment the guards saw me at the gates, their captain raised his hand. "Don't let him in." I froze. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to warn you. They're moving faster than you think. You've got weeks, maybe days." The captain spat over the wall. "Everywhere you go, they follow. You walk in, we all die. You walk past, maybe we live another day." The gates stayed shut. That night, I camped outside their walls. And as if on cue, the swarm came. Black rain fell from the sky, viscous drops that hissed against the dirt. Figures crawled from the puddles it left behind, spindly limbs snapping into place, faces stretching into mockeries of human grief. The settlement opened fire, turrets blazing, lights sweeping across the tide. I drew the blade and waded in, tearing through the creatures that tried to breach the gates. I fought until my arms shook, until their blood soaked me to the bone. But when dawn came, the gates opened not to thank me, to drive me off. "You brought this?" the captain snarled. His men leveled rifles at me. "If you ever come back, we'll put you down before the swarm has the chance." I walked on, not because I feared them, but because I could feel it now, the weight of something vast pulling at me, like chains in the sky, dragging me wherever the swarm wanted me to go. And deep down, a voice I could almost mistake for my father's whispered, "You weren't chosen to fight them. You were chosen to lead them." I tried outrunning it. Didn't matter how many miles I put between myself and the settlements. The swarm always found me. The dead stations in orbit, the silenced colonies on Mars, the ghosted ships in the belt. It was never random. It was me. I stopped running when I reached the ruins of the old relay tower, a carcass of steel bent against the wind. My father used to bring me here as a boy, said it was a place where voices crossed the stars, back when Earth believed it was alone. That night, as I slept beneath its skeleton frame, the whispers began. Not from the wind, not from memory, from the black sky itself. "You are the fracture." The voice scraped against my skull like metal on bone. "We do not chase you. We answer you." I clutched my blade, my father's blade, the one every man in my family had carried into blood. "Show yourself." The puddles around me rippled though there was no rain. A figure crawled free, not like the others. This one moved with purpose. Its face was not a mask of grief or rage, but something worse. Calm. It stood tall, tilting its head at me like I was the alien. "We knew your bloodline before you ever drew breath. They killed us, yes, but with every strike, every scream, every wound, they carved a mark into themselves." The thing stepped closer, its form flickering between flesh and liquid shadow. "That mark is you, a beacon, a leader not born of us, but bound to us. You carry the call and we answer." I staggered back, shaking my head. "No, my family fought you, died fighting you." The creature leaned close, and though it had no lips, I swear I felt the cold of its breath. "They thought they were resisting, but they were shaping. Each blade swing was an oath written in your blood. You are not their weapon. You are ours." For the first time, I couldn't lift my blade, because deep inside, I knew it wasn't lying. My father never told me the whole story. None of them did. The swarm wasn't chasing me. It was following orders. My Earth's skies burned red. The swarm had arrived in full, blotting out the stars with wings of shadow and flesh. Cities drowned in silence before the screams could even echo. Stations fell. Fleets dissolved. And through it all, I stood in the ruins of the old relay tower, blade in hand, listening to their call hammering through my veins. I tried fighting it. Every breath, every heartbeat, I told myself I was human. I was my father's son. I was not theirs. But the harder I fought, the louder they became. My body trembled. My blood sang. The blade slipped from my hand as the whispers turned to a single, undeniable command. Kneel. And I did. The swarm halted above me, millions of eyes fixed on the ground where I bowed. For the first time since their arrival, the silence felt alive. When I rose, they rose with me. When I lifted my hand, they answered in kind, wings unfurling like the breath of gods. I could feel Earth's defenses crumbling, but I didn't feel sorrow. Not anymore, because I wasn't human. I never had been. My family didn't fight them to keep Earth safe. They fought because they were bound to the swarm and couldn't admit it. Each generation tried to sever the chain, but in the end, the blood always remembered. And now I was the end of that chain. The last human looked up at me with horror before the swarm swallowed him whole. His scream was the final sound of mankind. I stood above the ashes of Earth and raised my hand again. The swarm obeyed. The stars were ours now.